Welcome to the Startup of the Year podcast, where each episode we showcase exciting new companies from around the world. This podcast is produced by Established, creators of the Startup of the Year program. Established is focused on helping organizations with their innovation, startup, and communication strategies.
Hey everyone, Frank Gruber here for Startup of the Year podcast. I'm your host, co-founder of Established, as well as managing partner of Established Ventures. Today's guest is Eric Mathews. He's a startup strategist. He's an author. He's a venture architect. He's got a couple new books out. This one's called Garage to Greatness. The other's Unleashing Unprecedented Potential. And we have a conversation that we're going to share with you today. It was part of our monthly innovation circle, which, if you're not familiar, is something that the Established Network has been hosting now for quite a while here. And you're missing out if you haven't signed up yet. If you go over to est.us/the mic 2025, you can claim your spot, become part of the next one. It's the third Thursday of every single month, and you can find that out on these by just registering, and they'll obviously be sending you the updates about the new upcoming circles, and you can become a part of it and ask your questions and have a good time. So let's jump into it with our conversation with Eric Mathews. Eric, thanks for being here. Obviously, love seeing you and love catching up. And wanted to just jump in for folks that are not as familiar with what your work has been, what you've been doing from a work's perspective for the last several years. Can you please give everyone kind of a quick background on your journey? This call is all about personal transformation and meaningful action. So we want to kind of give people a level set so they can kind of get a sense of what they're in for.
Great. Thanks for having me, Frank, and the team at Established. It's great and an honor actually to be here with all of you. So background-wise, I moved around a lot as a kid, but I came to Memphis to go to college, and I stayed. I wanted to make a difference, and I learned that through moving around that the grass is green where you water it. And so, by getting involved in early stage technology research and development at the FedEx Institute of Technology and becoming their associate director for corporate R&D and tech commercialization, I uncovered that in our community, we were building cool technologies, but there were no cool tech startups. And so, kind of armed with that information, I looked down our landscape. There weren't really a lot of resources for those that were unsure if they should be entrepreneurs and unsure if they had good ideas. And I really wanted to help people walk through that startup valley of death. After even trying my own hand at a couple of tech startups from the inside. With that information, I kind of quit my job and I started burning my savings and multi my credit cards to start building what is now StartCo today, where we're focusing in on kind of building our innovation economy in the Memphis region, and that's certainly led to the development of accelerators and investment funds and all sorts of interesting things along those lines. But also a lot of coaching of founders and helping them transform and grow as well at the same time. So that's kind of the basis for actually why these two books, while they seem like they're on different topics, they're kind of part one and part two of the entrepreneurial journey, which is how do you get going and how do you continue to grow and transform to meet the needs of your business as you need to.
Yeah, that's great, Eric. And I think that makes a lot of sense that they kind of are acting as like a first and second step. And personally, were there any personal limits that you ran into immediately when you were doing, getting going, that you had to kind of push through, to kind of keep your efforts moving forward in the area you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I mean, like I've alluded to this. I mean, I tried to do a couple of kind of spin out technologies from the FedEx Institute of Technology and started found a couple of businesses that way. And I've kind of realized the limitations of kind of working on the inside and having a backup and all that sort of stuff. And so when after some initial kind of realizations and kind of failures on that front, you kind of realize that you got to really burn the boats, as they say, and go out on the other side and kind of live it and breathe it and make it happen. And I see that happen a lot with folks that are trying to start businesses but still have their day jobs. That's the first limit, is kind of betting on yourself, betting on your idea, and betting on where you live to kind of launch a business. And that's certainly a big hurdle and limit. But once you get past that first 6 months, you kind of get uncomfortable with that. That's the uncertainties and the challenges and all that, and kind of settle into that new normal. So that's certainly one thing. But the second kind of example of that's kind of again, like the basis of the second book, was kind of in my 30s. I kind of realized I kind of was plateauing. I was like, kind of like things are okay, but it's, you kind of get this sense that things aren't right in your life. And, I kind of had that deep reflection point, maybe call it a midlife crisis or whatever it is, but I kind of used my 40th birthday as a lever to say, you know what, I got to find another gear. I got to figure out how to move to the next level and make it that level of impact that I want to make and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. And so that's where I kind of developed my own life planning systems, which is what I kind of coach business owners with today, and helped me get beyond the kind of a stagnant kind of plateau zone. And so that's kind of the other kind of bigger limit. Of course, every day there's self-imposed limits and things like that, but those are probably the two big transformational moments for me over the past 20 years.
What about, so with entrepreneurs you work with and you coach, what are the kind of, and I guess, what are the most common mental limits that people put on themselves? And how do you like break through and dismantle those?
I mean, the most common thing you probably see is that, people say, I'm not ready. I don't have all the resources. I don't have enough. And they're overvaluing the need for certainty, and undervaluing really the need for iteration and actually trying something. And so I think it's really unlocking the idea around what does failure really mean? It's really an opportunity to learn. And it's not a person, it's an event. It's a point of feedback. And we got to really kind of dismantle a lot of our thinking around not having enough and I'm not ready and all that sort of stuff, and just kind of thrust yourself into it. In fact, actually, that's kind of even when I started my entrepreneurial journey, it's kind of like I'm kind of like toeing the water and all that, when you really kind of just have to dive into the deep end of it all, and surround yourself and immerse yourself in the environment that you want to become. So that's kind of the main thing of mental limits when you're trying to start something that's
Love that,
interesting
because
or
I think it's
amazing.
so true, right? You have to get in there and you don't know what you don't know. So how can you, shut yourself off to begin with? You don't know enough, so,
I'll
and
tell you,
it's never done. Like, whatever you're doing
yeah.
is never done, right? Like you're always going to
Right.
iterate. Like, yeah.
And I think that's the other, actually, an interesting point is we also don't inventory things very well. We actually have everything that we need to succeed. We just haven't inventoried for it. In fact, actually, even writing these books, I didn't publish this, my Garage to Greatness book for a while, because I was like, I don't know about publishing. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. And for about 12 months, I was coaching somebody that was a best-selling author. And I was like, what the hell is going on with my life that I haven't actually inventoried what I have available to me to become an author? And so that's what I often think is also in this things, like you think I don't have enough, which is you haven't inventoried everything, and I'm not ready, which is you're never going to be ready. Just jump into it and do it. Those two limits can be overcome pretty quickly.
I love those, like the fact that you're able, like that you're breaking those two down, because I think it's such a limiter for people that have ideas, want to get into something totally, new, and they block themselves off. Like it's not me. Like I can't do it right now because I just don't know everything. I think it's great that you're just jump in, because I say it all the time, just start, like just start now. And as you started a company called StartCo, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're aligned in our thinking here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't know where it's going to end up, but you got to start, and otherwise it's never going to end up.
Absolutely. And start today.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
time is now.
Okay, so that's a great one. So are there others? I did jump in there, so I wanted to make sure we circle back. Are there other things that you see that people need to get past?
No, I mean, I think actually, one thing I was going to expand upon was what you kind of hinted at, which is you will, as a startup and a business owner, you will always have less resources. You're going to have less people. You're going to have less money, all that sort of stuff than the incumbents that are out there, et cetera, et cetera. And your only advantage is speed. And that's how the mighty fall again and again. And so if you can enhance your speed of learning by jumping into it and figuring it out, et cetera, and embracing, like, I want to learn as much as I possibly can, and everything is a learning experience, and that every education has a price. Failure of losing money, or even having a business fail, that's an education that nobody can take away from you. In fact, actually, if you look at how much money that I've lost investors over time, it's tens of millions of dollars through our startups, but that's an education that nobody can take away from me, and that can never be taken away from our founders. And so we can leverage that as the fulcrum for our next success.
Yeah, that's a great point. And way to, like, obviously reframe that too, because it only takes one win to get that all back, especially in startups and investments. So
Yeah.
get
So
that
on average,
happen.
it's 3.7 failures before your first success as a founder. I mean, it's so you have to get through it. That's actually when I teach at Rhodes College here locally, in the entrepreneurship programs. I'm there to help them get a couple of their first failures out of the way as soon as possible, so that they can move on to the zone where they can, see the success.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Well, there's two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about that fear of failure, but I also want to talk about learning in an AI age. So let's talk about the fear of failure since we're talking about right now. Like, let's circle back to the AI question. So, fear of failure. People, are afraid, right? They don't want to start because they're fearful that they're not going to succeed. How do you tackle that fear? I mean, you just mentioned, jumping in, but are there other things you can do, other tactics?
Well, it goes back to, like, a life can go unlived in so many ways. And so if you let the fear of failure keep you back from greatness, you're just going to be left with regret. And I don't think any of us want to kind of, look back, or even as a, kind of a rough quote was like, meeting the person you could have become the day before you die. Like, you don't want it, that type of
Man, that
experience.
one just
So
gave me chills, man. That you don't want to do that quote, man. That's really
yeah,
powerful. So, yeah, you got to
yeah.
do what you want to go out and do what you believe you should do, right? And I think, you don't want to be living in
And the
fear.
other thing is, here's the other thing I would also say about this that I've talked to founders about is, you know, in reality, you're not going to die from your startup. You're not going to have lack of clean drinking water or shelter or food or things along those lines. But yet, 20,000 people today in the world will die of lack of clean drinking water. And so the real risk is not doing it. That's
Mhm.
the real risk, and that's the other, reframing of it. It's like we're not really risking that much. Um, and we can always recover from failures and losses and all that sort of stuff, but the risk is really not doing it.
Right. And then, there has been, more focus or, highlighting around the fact that, mental health is important, obviously, but it's been, somewhat of an issue for startup founders. So, for those that are,
Mhm.
in the grind, grinding it out and aren't successful, they take it, they're too close to it, take it personally, like it's a personal failure, instead of obviously setting themselves out as part of
Mhm.
themselves. So how do you handle that as well? Because I mean, obviously you want to be in the right mindset and, you know, and also be
Yeah,
able
I
to
mean,
do.
right. I think when I've worked with founders that are kind of like they kind of realize it's the end, we kind of work through a series of, kind of actions, and certainly, the mechanics of winding down your business and doing it gracefully and with dignity, and embracing it fully, I think, is, part of that. And then kind of the final step of that is just kind of like the step back, maybe a couple months later, maybe 30 days later, and kind of having that debrief with yourself or with others, about what you took away from that experience, that you can now apply and move forward, so that you can actually reframe what you seemingly as a loss as a huge gain. In fact, actually, that's really a lot about personal transformation. You can change the stories about your past, and that will change how you feel about your present. And that's really a powerful tool that we have available to us. And so
Yeah, let's talk about
reframing,
that.
reframing, things that seemingly were negatives in the past as things that, happen for you and not happen to you, is so very important to actually upgrading kind of how you feel about the present and how you actually act and behave, et cetera. That's like one big tool of personal transformation, is kind of like, changing the stories of your past. The other thing is about changing the vision of your future. And so when you start changing both of those things, your present automatically expands and gets better. And I think that's really a lot about even the second book on unleashing your potential, is understanding those two very factors and how powerful they are for enabling and empower you to grow, change, build new things, etc. So, the stories of the
Right.
past
It's
are
so true. I mean,
self-remitting.
the one constant in life is change, and obviously personal change, environmental change, every is around us all the time, right? So how does someone harness that reality and, make faster, better decisions in their both personal life and business life?
Yeah, I mean, if you think back to 5 years ago, Frank, whatever, you were a totally different person. You were in Memphis, Tennessee. We're probably preparing to host Startup of the Year, all that sort of stuff. And I'm a totally different person than I was 5 years ago. So that's constantly happening. But a lot of us don't realize that we can actually kind of version control based upon who we want to become in our future, and to be an active designer of that future instead of passively kind of beginning on an escalator. And I think a lot of that happens in people's lives where they kind of didn't really define clearly where they wanted to go. In fact, actually, were kept from greatness by a clearer path to a lesser goal. These lesser goals that we can see, it's like, oh, this is a path, this is better, it's incrementally better, but it's not great. And so you can kind of get lulled in a passive way to an okay future. And once you start to take control of the fact that you can version control and you can actually design a future version of yourself, and accomplishments and the habits and where you are, where you're living and who you want to be and who you're hanging out with, all that sort of stuff, and let that version of yourself decide and make decisions in your present. That's the most powerful way to kind of pull you forward. You let your future pull you forward, and make decisions for you to become the person you want to become.
Oh, that's great. And I believe in visualization of that too, like literally really truly believing it, and almost to the point where you can touch it in your head. Like you can feel like what's happening if you like go out and you're trying to, let's say, win this thing or do this thing, whatever that is, if you can visualize what that feels like, you almost form your own reality. It's crazy to think that way, and some people may think I'm sound like a wackadoodle over here, but I'm serious. Like I'm saying that, like if you can visualize what that's going to feel like, it's almost like creates itself.
Exactly. The mind can only achieve what it's already seen.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the key to that, is making the clearest, most detailed picture of the future that you want.
Yep. That's so true. Great. That's good stuff. Okay. So let's switch over to corporate innovators. Basically, you're operating in a large organization. We've got a mix of different kind of folks that are listening in. What does unleashing unprecedented potential look like in that kind of corporate innovation kind of environment? I know you've worked over there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been coaching and worked with corporate innovators too, but I think it's about taking control again of the your self transformation, and because when you change, things will change. So you may be thinking, and maybe it's a bureaucratic thing, things aren't going your way, all that sort of stuff, and you think that the externalities, the environment has to change, your boss has to change, all that sort of stuff, when in reality, when you actually change and transform, things will start to change around you. And you probably have seen this happen in the office. Maybe somebody comes in and you notice, like, hey, this person's changed. They're different than when I've seen them. They're behaving differently. They have different activities and actions. Stuff's not rubbing off on them in the same way that it used to. And that when you observe that in somebody else, it kind of also reminds you that you can start changing and growing. It's like oxygen in the room. When you start changing, everybody else around you is like, I can do this, I can change, I can transform. And so I think the main thing when you think about it from a corporate innovator's perspective is, why would you wait for somebody else to make that transformation when you now have the ability and know that you can invest in yourself, and that you can change the quality of your inputs to change the quality of your outputs? All that's within your personal control. So a lot of things are around locus of control when you're in a corporate environment are really, really important. Put your own oxygen mask on first is what I tell people a lot. That's what they say on the airplane, and that's what we have to do in life.
Yeah, so true. And almost just what you're saying is be the change and others will follow. And I think it's contagious. So that makes a lot of sense for anyone that's in that kind of a situation. And you're going to go out and start making things happen, and obviously people are going to see that and start making things happen too. So
absolutely. I think it's contagious for sure.
Yeah. All right. We kind of already talked a little bit about your book, your pocket-sized book. Can you show it again? I don't have it with me on the road. I should have brought it. It's small enough, but
well, these are like the TikTok of books. So by the way, I'm going to give everybody my email at the end, and I'll send you electronic copies for anybody who wants them. But yeah, they're just very small, pocket-sized books. You can read them in like 45 minutes. And actually, I originally, like, I was kind of a little sheepish about having a small book, but everybody that has them, they're like, this is so pocket-sized, I can keep it with me, I can read it, I can reference it, I can put it in my purse, whatever the case may be. And also, we're in a different age now of reading. So like having the TikTok of books has become an advantage, I think. A little bit of a mini book.
I totally agree. And having it to like be able to tuck into a bag easily, like I don't generally bring books with me. I didn't bring Unfortunately,
They're
this
bulky and all that. Yeah.
book, yeah. So if you have like that size of book, it's perfect. Let's
And
talk.
also, I think it's like 10,000 words, whereas, and a lot of people make a 50,000 word normal book, and it's kind of like they repeated everything 10 times, and in five different ways. It's kind of like, did I really need to read 50,000 words to get all the points? And so I believe in information density as well.
That's a great point. And how many times have you started that book that you brought with you, and then you really only just read the first few chapters, and then you're like, well, and then you don't finish it. You don't know
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
and you probably didn't get
No
everything.
sense of accomplishment from that.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
right, so we're about out of time here, but we
Oh,
do
yeah.
need to talk a little bit more about maybe some examples of maybe who applied some of these principles from your books, maybe some tangible impacts. I don't know, so leave some people on a high note here. Is there any examples you can think of that kind of
Yeah.
could resonate?
We talked about the transformation, all that, and Garage Greatness is really the guide that we've been using since I began building our accelerators in Memphis, on how do you actually go from kind of zero to hero in your startup. And the number one cause of startup failure is building something nobody wants. And so when people come in and start to our systems, we say, go talk to customers, stop building, go talk to customers, go talk to customers, go talk to customers, figure out what you're supposed to build first and then build it. That's 50% of all failures is product market fit, building something nobody wants, all that sort of stuff. And so when you think about it from a tangible perspective, we have a company called Pretect that came to us from Canada. They could predict at the time when a passenger's vehicle could break down in the future up to 6 months in advance based upon predictive analytics and all that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, the price point was never going to work and all that. And kind of knowing that going in, I said, let's go talk to trucking companies and let's pivot to that. And I started talking to 20, 30, 40 trucking companies, and they realized a much bigger opportunity at a much amazing more price point and actually build something that somebody wanted, to the point where they were just acquired this past year. So I tell people all the time is like, you got to have a great reason to wake up, a great problem to solve, but you also certainly need the right customer that actually needs it solved. So go out there and hear that your baby's ugly and make some changes on the solution so that we actually can serve somebody well. I think that's the biggest takeaway, if anybody's an entrepreneur and thinking about launching something, is don't build, go talk to your customers.
And that could be with anything, not just a startup, right? Like if
Oh yeah,
you're a
absolutely.
corporate innovator and you're trying to get an idea going, you can get
Social
people's
impact,
feedback. Yes.
yeah, nonprofits all the time. It's like let's not speculate here. No armchair entrepreneurship. Get out there and start talking to somebody that's going to be your beneficial customer, and figure
Yeah,
that
and I
out
think
first.
the key there is also having that flexible but somewhat thick skin to be able to take it. And I think that's where the fear kind of comes in, because you're like, ooh, this is my special idea that I've been holding on to. I don't want to get it out there, because then what if someone doesn't like it? That could be a problem. So I think you got to get a little
Absolutely.
bit strong, know that it's got to be a little bit more flexible, and it's not done until you get it to the right place. So
Absolutely. That definitely, you got to hear that your baby's ugly. You got to change or transform. And I can tell within 30 days
mhm.
with somebody's going to have a shot at being successful based upon their willingness to go out there and hear, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think this is right. I don't think the price point's correct. I
Mhm.
don't think you could sell this to me correctly, whatever the case may be. Your willingness to hear that 50 times in a row from people that you probably don't know, because you don't know, you probably don't know 50 of your customers yet. So you got to build that relationship and get to that point of feedback. That's incredibly diagnostic to the success,
Great,
and
great
highly
point.
recommended.
Great point to end on too. So thank you, Eric, so much for all of your insights here and being here today with us. We really appreciate it. It's
Absolutely.
been a wonderful conversation, and obviously anyone that wants to connect with you, what's a good way to do that?
Yeah, they can find me online at ericmathews.com. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. And also feel free to send me an email, eric at neverstop.co,
Awesome. And he's
neverstop.co.
also a member of the Established Network. So thank you for being here. Thanks for
Yep.
sharing insights, and thanks for writing those books. Keep them coming.
Thank you. Well, I'll try. Thanks so much.
That was Eric Mathews. You can grab any of his books here and sharpen your edge as either a founder or innovator or a thought leader. And obviously, no better time to start your dream than today. So if you're a startup and startup founder, get out there and chase it. You want to go fast. Surround yourself with people who have done it before. You can join the Established Network over at established.network. And until next time, I'm Frank Gruber. Get out there, keep building, keep dreaming, and starting up. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Startup of the Year podcast. Be sure to subscribe and we'll be back with another episode soon.